In 1955, with little money and even less time, a small RAF team walked into a Himalayan basin, barely mapped, only to find closed passes, deep snow, and a choice that would decide whether the expedition failed or endured.
Hey, glad you're here. Welcome to the Himalayan Journals. Here on this channel, we bring to you real stories from century old field notes. We try to keep it simple and calm here. Think of it as a documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s, covering stories of indigenous wisdom, epic expeditions, and groundbreaking science passed on just as they were recorded. Subscribe, zone out, binge.
In June 1955, the Royal Air Force Mountaineering Association set out for Lahul with limited means and a narrow margin of time. Unsupported by public funds, except for a free journey to India, the expedition could afford only 6 weeks beyond Delhi. Accessibility therefore mattered more than ambition, and after careful thought, the Spiti Lahul watershed was chosen, with an approach by the Bara Shigri glacier. The plan was to explore and plot the Gurdi and Rohtang rivers, tributaries of the Spiti flowing northeastward through deep gorges close to the border. As the party approached Manali, reports of a late winter and dangerous snow conditions grew steadily worse. On the 21st of May, Stewart and Lees were sent to reconnoiter the Rohtang Pass and returned with unwelcome certainty. The pass was closed to ponies for at least a week. This threatened the entire plan. Nevertheless, on 24th May, the reconnaissance party left Chika to cross the Humpta, moving out at 6:30 under warm and overcast skies. Progress was slow once they reached new snow above 10,000 feet. Avalanche debris lay everywhere, massive tips of wet snow that had peeled off the old fern into late April and early May. Some flowed across gentle slopes and even climbed the far sides of valleys. Vast seracs rose from slush in which men sank to the waist. Snow began falling at 11, and it was nearly 4 in the afternoon before the party reached the pass in poor visibility with more than a foot of fresh snow. A planned descent was abandoned as unsafe, and an alternative route led them down onto the glacier. Darkness forced an unplanned bivouac. 11 coolies spent the night crammed into one tent. When the party reached Chatiru the next day, the coolies refused to go farther. Snow in the Chandra Valley in late May was unknown to them, and they would not continue. With no choice, supplies were dumped at Chitang. Stewart, Sims, and Lees were sent forward to reconnoiter toward Shigri, while the rest returned to Manali. By 28th May, 2 facts were clear. The Chandra Valley between Kulti and Chatiru was impassable for coolies, and the Kulti Himal, seen from the Rohtang, offered promise. The decision was taken to abandon Bara Shigri and move to the Kulti Basin. By 5th June, after much confusion and movement in small groups, the entire expedition reunited with its stores at the Kulti Nal. A base was established at 11,700 feet, with a small Camp 1 at 14,700 feet already in place. Survey work began immediately, while on 6th June, a climbing party crossed the Sara Flats, 4 miles of snow bridging the rivers almost entirely. The Kulti icefall, though alarming from afar, proved manageable. A safe corridor allowed passage in early hours, and the ice face itself was secure with crampons. From Camp Therefore, the party moved upward to Camp the Skane at about 17,000 feet, placed on a snow shelf below a crescent-shaped ridge falling from twin summits known as Jore. From here, several routes to a high plateau were examined. On the following day, Stewart and Bennett led the way up a steep snow ridge to the Silba Saddle at about 18,000 feet. Lees and Smith climbed the eastern twin while Stewart and Bennett ascended a steep peak later named Akela Kila. Administrative duties drew Smith back to base camp, but the climbing continued. Tambu, the tent peak, was climbed on the 9th of June. On the 11th of June, a party traversed the ridge northwest of Tambu, reaching the shale summit of Tilakalahar. Lees descended to base camp, while Emerson joined camp to Eknoe. The twins were traversed eastward, including the first ascent of the western summit. The objective now was Taragiri, a prominent peak of uncertain height near 21,000 feet. After a 1:30 breakfast and a 2:30 start on 12th June, the climbers crossed the plateau by moonlight and reached the summit at 9:30 after a moderate snow climb. The return over softened snow was exhausting, and rest was welcome. Survey work continued in the upper basin with camps established on ridges and calls. Sims and Devdatta made a notable ascent of a peak later called Ashagiri, likely close to 20,000 feet. By mid-June, the expedition prepared to wind down. A final sortie to Shikar Bay was completed as planned, involving waterfalls, ice falls, and a steep summit ridge. Base camp was dismantled on schedule. Equipment was lowered down the icefall by rope. Ponies arrived on time, and the camp, now surrounded by green pasture and flowers, was left to the Gaddis. The party returned to Manali just as the monsoon broke, satisfied that the Kulti had proved itself a fine ground for alpine-style climbing within reach of limited time.